Jack and I were just talking for a little bit really about reaching customers on different levels, and not only being able to capture their attention or their emotions, but really dig into that intuition. Yeah, I'll let you take it away a little bit here. I know you kind of just finished wrapping a little bit up about what you've been trying to do.
You want me to do that, huh?
I can cut and splice however I want to here.
Yeah, this Hungarian psychologist whose name I couldn't begin to pronounce correctly. I think it's Csikszentmihalyi. He's the guy who originated the idea of flow as a conscious state where we kind of lose track of time and lose track of ourselves and just feel very creative.
Mm-hmm.
He made the statement that as humans, we have the ability to process about 120 bits of information at a time. So we've got the ability to process about 15 words at a time. So if we're talking back and forth, we've got to listen very carefully and not talk. And if we start talking, it cuts our ability to understand in half. So I'm thinking about all that in terms of our job as persuasion professionals. You know, you work in branding. I work in, I guess, kind of an offshoot of branding. Loyalty. I call myself a loyalty hacker. Our job is to help our customers persuade their customers that their solution is the right solution. My work with Cult Your Brand is all about overcoming that 120-bit bandwidth limitation and communicating a message and being persuasive to our target audience. Doing things that appeal to the intuitive part of our brains rather than the logical part of our brains, the part of our brains that engages in pattern recognition and uses heuristics in order to make decisions rather than reason and rationality and logic. As I said earlier, this is going to sound just like salespeople are going to say, oh yeah, people don't buy for logical reasons, they buy for emotional reasons. And that's absolutely true. But as people who are upstream from the sales process, we're in the marketing process and the branding process. I believe it is our job to do that kind of work as well, to be dealing in the emotional, the intuitive, the pattern recognition, and to consciously be appealing to that part of our target audience. If you don't have a good rational argument, then you got a problem, and there's nothing that anybody can do if your rational argument for why your product or service is the right solution.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that rational argument, we can't help you. That's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But our job is to deal with the full human being, the part of the human that can make those intuitive leaps. How do we go about doing that? So that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm working on these days. Did I say anything worthwhile?
No, I think all that is definitely interesting. And I think, whether it's maybe a little bit too extensive for the type of words that you're trying to digest, I guess, as you listen to this podcast or not, I think you really want to listen even in between the lines there, what Jack's trying to say. And it's really about that perception. Is what you're saying, does it have substance behind it? Is what you're saying believable? Is your focus to drive a sale or a download, or is your focus to generate loyalty? And I think that's why our talks are so interesting or intriguing to me, is because number one, you can't really pigeonhole every client and give a definitive answer or solution anyways when it comes to branding or loyalty commitment like you do. But number two, you have to, it forces you to really revisit that customer journey, that customer experience, and try to put yourself in their perspective and how they're viewing your brand, your message, the way you present that message, what form of media, and making sure that not only are you being precise, to the point, direct, understandable, all those things, but also that you're reaching them by a means that they appreciate or can actually understand better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is it's more than just understanding, because we typically, when we talk about understanding something, we most often will say that you can explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Explain something requires language.
True.
Language comes from the dominant side of our brain. Intuition operates on the opposite side, the non-dominant side.
Mm-hmm.
It's very common to know something that you cannot explain. That is almost the perfect definition for intuition, a knowing of something that you lack the ability to verbalize. So I wouldn't constrain it to just understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually say knowing. I believe that we have the ability as marketers, as branders, as persuaders to deliver a message in a way that our audience knows what we're offering, knows that our offering is the right offering for them. They may not necessarily understand it. In other words, they may not be able to verbalize and rationally justify it, but they will know if we deliver that message to the non-dominant part of the brain, to the intuitive pattern recognition part of the brain, the part that gets music and art and is interested in aesthetics. All of those things help us to know something, whether we understand it or not.
That's where we really mesh or mix together really well. And I mean, even, the way I step back and view this too, because we work with different types of clients and for different reasons, as far as what their end goal is or immediate goal is. I think you even want to be able to separate the oil from the water here even more. And there's some forms of marketing that you want to identify with your brand that is only focused on that intuition. And then there are some forms that, maybe are driven towards or encompass that popular or trendy or maybe modernized aspect of society. I think, you touched on it earlier when we were talking too, is that you want to be able to reach them at all of those levels, hands down. That's going to be the most effective way.
Yeah.
But there's also so many different channels and different platforms, online, offline, print media, word of mouth, sales teams like you referenced before, that you should be using or honing in on a certain strategy or focus. And I think even going back to sales is you want to have more of that intuition that, hey, I can trust this guy. This guy has my best interest, that aspect of the brain. Whereas maybe on social media, for example, where, you're trying to catch somebody's eye, a lot of times you get in front of customers or potential customers because somebody else liked it. So that's a trend or an actual action that is actually placing you in front of somebody else. That's why I like talking to you about this, because not only can we really decipher exactly what you're saying so that other people can understand that in a little bit better way. Because your mind travels a lot faster than mine, or maybe slower. I don't know. It's not on the same wavelength. That's for sure.
It probably just operates in a different universe.
But it's relevant, man. And that's what I love. That's what I get passionate about is, we're not here to go down a known process. And I hate using the word process, but go down a set of deliverables that is going to work for everybody. We're really here to define not only who the brand is, I guess, what the persona is, but how does it align with that target audience? And without going back to, because you can look back at our past videos at what we have to say about that for sure. But this is more in regards to targeting your customers and ensuring that the perception of you is on point, because if it's not on point, you lose them. And in most cases, you're going to lose them forever, because they're going to remember that experience as well, just as they would remember a positive one that left that emotional attachment or like positive intuition that gave them goosebumps, maybe even because they can relate or it resonates with them.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely spot on.
And I was talking to a client this morning. I know I want to throw this in there because we were trying to decide what to talk about today, and we ended up going off a lot deeper than we thought, which I love it. So hopefully you guys do too. But I'm really passionate with this client. I've been working for about 4 months now, really identifying their persona, their brand voice. And then we talked once before about having that brand persona, or who is representing that brand. Instead of an image, you want to have an actual person or character. And I just kept hearing them say, well, I like this and I want the brand to be this. And this is what competitors are doing. And I had to hit the 20-second timeout a couple of times, because it's like, okay, this is what you paid me for, guys. This is what I hate to shoot down your dreams about what you want your brand to be, but at the end of the day, do you want your brand to be successful? And how is success defined? Is it by conveying it the way that you want it or the way that you like, or is it about really diving down off that deep end and figuring out what your customers feel, what they need, what excites them? And we spoke for 2 or 3 hours just uncovering that voice, the tone of voice. And it might have been irritating to them for it to go on that long, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to appreciate that. Hey, we really dumbed down a couple adjectives we're going to use moving forward that means something to these customers.
Yeah.
We know it means something to them because we took the time to understand their situation, their need, and their perception. And being able to cater to both sides of the brain in that aspect is going to allow us to not miss on that target audience.
And it's so easy to do that.
Right?
It's easy to miss.
Yeah. It's easy to miss, but I think a lot of people think that branding is easy. And, we're here to tell you it's a lot of fun. It can be stressful, but it's an
I think branding is easy if you do it poorly, actually.
What's that?
I think branding is easy if you do it poorly.
I thought that's what you said.
Yeah. It's just about the easiest thing in the world to do it poorly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sales.
It's amazing, really being able to, I think it's cool being able to look into sales, look into even traditional marketing or traditional branding, and then looking at it from a psychological aspect and making sense of it all. I mean,
That's the part I love.
It's not going to click with everybody, but it's going to strike with a couple people. And I think they're going to be able to understand how powerful this can be.
It's powerful. It's extremely powerful. Yeah, it's based on the fact that humans are humans everywhere, all the time. I was talking to a potential partner today, and she asked me, well, who does this work for? And I had to laugh a little bit. And I said, well, if your target audience is composed of humans, it will work for them.
Right?
If you're selling to dogs, I don't know. I don't know anything about dog psychology, but if your target audience is humans, it works.